WorldView Today. Political earthquake rocks. China, ladies and gentlemen, a political earthquake is shaking the foundations of China. And this time, the epicenter is not in Washington, Tokyo, or any Western power. It is in Beijing itself. The spark igniting this seismic upheaval is none other than General Secretary of the People's Republic of China, Xi Jinping. Once heralded as the architect of the Chinese dream, Xi now faces the worst nightmare of his political career. Amid an unrelenting economic freefall, factories are shuttering en masse. Unemployment is spreading like wildfire, and public trust is crumbling by the day. Martial law has been quietly reinstated in several regions, while surveillance systems operate at unprecedented levels. Security forces are being discreetly mobilized to suppress any signs of unrest. Why is Xi so alarmed? The answer lies in a stark reality. Factories are grinding to a halt, workers are losing jobs, and strategic economic partners are turning their backs, accusing Beijing of unfair trade deals. Economic collapse and the shadow of Tiananmen, China's economy is in a tailspin, with fractured supply chains and a mass exodus of international investors. A glaring example comes from the textile industry, where a factory receiving raw materials in the morning was hit by devastating news by noon. New U.S. import tariffs had surged to 104%. Orders were canceled, production lines stalled, and the factory shut down immediately. In retaliation, Beijing imposed an 84% tariff on U.S. goods, a symbolic gesture with little substance. Behind the fiery anti-American rhetoric lies a grim truth. Factories are closing, unemployment is soaring, and the specter of a second Tiananmen looms quietly. Rather than admit fault, the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, has unleashed its vast propaganda machine, spending over 225 billion yuan annually to sustain an army of more than 4 million online commentators. These information warriors, posing as ordinary citizens, dominate platforms like Twitter, YouTube, and especially TikTok, manipulating public opinion, sowing division, and shaping the emotions of young people worldwide. TikTok, a weapon of psychological warfare. Once seen as a commercial tool, TikTok has morphed into a weapon of psychological warfare. Far more than an entertainment platform, it serves as Beijing's powerful propaganda arm. Millions of videos flood the platform with content urging American users to buy Chinese goods, promote platforms like JD, Tmall, or Alibaba, and reshape consumer habits and emotions for an entire generation. With over 170 million American users, Beijing controls TikTok's algorithms and stores all data in China, transforming the platform into a tool for mass psychological manipulation and consumer behavior control. A striking example is a video featuring a confident woman claiming that luxury brands like Gucci, labeled Made in Italy, source 80% of their components from China. She urges Americans to shun Western goods and shop instead on Taobao, 1688, or in Guangzhou for affordable luxury. This is not mere advertising. It's a psychological assault aimed at reshaping consumer perceptions on American soil. Notably, TikTok is banned in China, and using VPNs to post on foreign social media is illegal. Who then would dare appear publicly without government backing? The answer is clear. This is a state-directed propaganda campaign. False labeling is another growing concern. Chinese goods are shipped abroad, relabeled as Made in Vietnam or Made in Cambodia, and exported to the U.S. as products of third countries. This tactic allows hundreds of millions of dollars in Chinese goods to evade U.S. punitive tariffs, exacerbating America's trade deficit. Analysts estimate that 1/4 of the U.S. trade deficit stems directly from China, with another quarter indirectly through Chinese components mislabeled as originating elsewhere. Trade war morphs into information war, the U.S. China trade war has evolved into an information war, where the stakes are not just economic, but the future of global politics. Seemingly harmless TikTok videos have become sugar-coated bullets, spreading anti-American sentiment, calling for boycotts of U.S. goods, and even inciting revolution on American soil. A recent viral video, produced by Chinese actors, contained a shocking call to action. "You don't need more tariffs, you need a revolution." The speaker denounced the U.S. government, praised China, and distorted trade history to incite Americans to rise against their own leadership. Ironically, while China bans TikTok domestically, it uses the platform to export propaganda to the U.S., aiming to sow chaos and undermine the trade war. Yet, China is growing increasingly isolated. Even close allies like Russia and Pakistan are turning against Beijing, accusing it at the World Trade Organization, WTO, of dumping and illegal subsidies. Steel dumping, a ruthless economic weapon. China's steel dumping strategy is a prime example. Beijing pumps subsidies and tax exemptions into its domestic steel industry, enabling companies to build massive factories with capacity far exceeding demand. Unable to sell domestically, they flood international markets with steel at prices so low that foreign competitors cannot survive. As a result, companies in India, Vietnam, and Russia have gone bankrupt, leaving China with near total control of the steel market, a critical industry for any potential conflict. In 2024, of roughly 400 WTO trade investigations, nearly 50%, 189 cases, targeted China, a figure double that of 2023. Strikingly, 117 cases came from developing economies, once considered China's staunch allies. India filed 37 cases, Brazil 19, Turkey 9, and even Pakistan, a recipient of billions in Chinese Belt and Road investments, launched 5 lawsuits. Most notably, Russia, Beijing's closest political ally, has also penalized Chinese firms for dumping. Xi's Southeast Asia tour, a threatening message. Facing global pressure, Xi Jinping embarked on an urgent tour of Cambodia, Vietnam, and Malaysia, countries suffering from China's cheap goods. Instead of apologies or negotiations, Xi issued threats. Southeast Asian nations, heavily reliant on trade with China, would pay a steep price for siding with the U.S. Vietnam emerged as a focal point. During Xi's visit to Hanoi on April 14 and 15, 2025, he met with Vietnam's top leadership, including General Secretary To Lam, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh, President Luong Quang, and National Assembly Chairman Tran Thang Man. Beijing proposed a unified trade front to counter new U.S. tariff policies, expressing particular concern over a potential 46% U.S. tariff on Vietnamese goods. Yet Vietnam is not easily swayed. Hanoi is masterfully balancing its strategic partnerships, deepening ties with the U.S. and the West in technology, defense, and energy, while maintaining stable relations with China to avoid conflict. Despite reliance on Chinese raw materials and investment, Vietnam is diversifying its supply chains, tightly controlling strategic projects, and expanding cooperation with democratic powers like the U.S., Japan, India, and the EU. Vietnam's strategic autonomy proves that a small nation can stand firm against the world's second-largest economy. Lessons from Vietnam. Vietnam's story is a vivid warning to the world. Beneath the veneer of Chinese trade agreements, loans, and investment promises lies a relentless manipulation machine. Trade in Beijing's hands is no longer a transaction, it is a strategic weapon. From TikTok to steel factories, from subsidies to trade loopholes, China is waging a silent but brutal war, using data, money, and seductive traps instead of bullets. The world is waking up, and Vietnam has shown that courage, clarity, and strategic independence can prevent a nation from bowing to a superpower. This is why China is afraid, and why this story demands the world's close attention. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this edition of WorldView Today. Please share your thoughts and subscribe to stay updated with our in-depth analyses. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.